Hello and welcome to the final lesson into the beginner tutorial for Premiere Pro CC. Similar to the last lesson where we round tripped into Photoshop, in this one we're going to be focusing on audio. And in this case we're going to be round tripping through Audition. Let me show you this sample video clip that has significant audio issues that I actually created. But in addition, I recorded some good audio. So not only are you going to learn how to fix the difficult audio that was recorded on camera, but also how to sync audio with that video if it's recorded separately. So let's just take a look at the video. Okay, so this is the video sample specifically for audio so that we can actually address any audio issues that you may have with your video. And we'll be using Adobe Audition. So right now what I'm doing is I'm filming directly onto my 5D Mark IV, great camera by the way, and we're going to be playing with that audio. And I've got a little fan set up over here to make some background ambient noise. I'm hoping it's going to work. But I've also am recording on my Bluebird dynamic mic through a soundboard USB into my MacBook Pro to create a separate audio file so you can see what the difference is in terms of collecting some separate audio and then syncing them up. Anyway, before we do all this though, there's one thing that I missed. I have to do that first. We need this. And what's that for? That's to sync the audio. So if we want to sync the audio with the video with the separate audio, then we need something to do that with. We can also do any sort of clap, so you don't have to have this, but students tend to like these things to play with. Anyway, okay. We also need to do one other thing to remove any sort of background noise, and that's what's called room tone. Generally, when you film video, you always tell kids to start recording 3 to 5 seconds before, and then continue recording 3 to 5 seconds after for the edit. So if you had to do transitions like dissolves or things like that. However, for audio, you need what's called room tone. So you actually have to do this. You just sit there and say, okay, we're going to record room tone. And you get like about 3 to 5 seconds of room tone, which you can then use later in post to remove if you need to remove the background noise. Anyway, let's give it a try. Okay, welcome back. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take that sample video and put it into a Premiere Pro project. So let's begin. We'll start a new project. We're going to call this Audio Refinement. And since I've done it before, I'm going to call it Audio Refinement 2. And we're just going to open up that clip. So I'm going to go File, Import, and within that folder that we have an audio samples. And that's the one that we want. Click that. And then double click here and we have the two files. One is the video you just watched. The other is a separate audio file that is a much better recording. Okay, so let's throw the video clip into the sequence. And again, let's just listen to it. We'll just put the volume up a little bit here. And if you heard that little sound in the background here, I'm just going to put it back a bit. And this is something when you're filming, I'm going to put the volume way up here. Okay, there are two sounds there. First, you hear that hum sound, which is the fan that I put in place. There's also that sort of crackly sound. That's actually the autofocus on the camera that is being recorded by the camera mic. So something to think about when you're filming is to turn the autofocus off if you have to use a mic that's going into the camera. Okay. Anyway, as I mentioned in the video, we did record some room tone. I'm just going to turn the volume down here. And room tone was down at this end. Now I'll turn it up to listen to the room tone. There we go. And that room tone was there so that if we want, can we take it out? And yes, we can if we go into Audition. Now, the way we get into Audition and Round Trip is we select this clip, but when we right click on the audio portion of the clip. So I'm going to right click here, and this time you'll notice it says Edit Clip in Adobe Audition, not Photoshop, because it's not a still photo. So it's going to open up Audition, and we have a significant number more tools within Audition to make this edit. Now, there's a few things that we have to do within this edit before we go about removing the noise. One of the first things that we want to do is address the synchronization spikes that we did by using the slate and by clapping, which you will notice right here. These very high peaks that hit the noise floor all the way up there. Okay. Now, to reduce that, all we have to do is go into Effects, Amplitude, and then go to the hard limiter. Now, what the hard limiter allows us to do is say, okay, where is the highest peak of normal audio? And if we look here, it's a little bit above -6, so I'm going to put it at -5. Now, you can scroll across here, but I find it easier just to type it in. Okay, -5, click Apply, and you'll notice that those large spikes now are heading down to -5. What that allows us to do essentially is keep it within a normal range, and then what we can do is, to make the audio better, we can expand the waveform to fit within a good range by normalizing. And normalizing is a good tool to use, especially if you record audio and the volume is far too low. Normalizing will bring up the amplitude of the waveform and bring up the volume. So I normalize, I'm going to normalize to 100%, and you notice the waveform expands significantly. So now we have a much louder and more useful audio clip. Okay, so this is the video sample specifically for audio. So you can see, but now we've boosted up the background noise as well. But in doing so, when we reduce it, there's going to be such a significant difference between the normal audio and what we remove that it will sound significantly better. Right now, when it's white like this, it means the entire clip has been selected. So if I click here, it deselects. Now, in order to remove the background noise, I have to make a selection of just the noise. So my room tone is right here. I'm just going to select a portion of the room tone. Okay, we're going up to Effects. And we're going to Noise Reduction, Capture Noise Print. Okay, once we have the noise print captured, we're going to do Command A to select the entire clip. And then we're going to go up to Noise Reduction again and say Noise Reduction. Now, in this particular dialog box, we have a number of different options. First, the different scale that we're going to use is linear, where the volume will be addressed in a linear fashion, or a logarithmic one, which is more a parabolic shape. In this particular instance, I've tested it before, linear is fine. And typically what I do is I click this looping toggle, which means it'll just continuously loop while I'm making my adjustments. And I like to listen to the output noise only, as opposed to listening to the actual audio track with the reduction of the sound. Now, the reason why I like this is because that way I can hear if the reduction is going to remove some of the voice as well. So let's play this. So that's just the noise. And so you can hear me talking just a little bit, and that will be removed if I go to this amount. That is not too bad, actually. And it's going to reduce the amount of decibels. And what you have to do is you get used to listening to this. And eventually you get the idea. Now that should work fine. So I'm going to pause that, and I'm going to switch to just the sound. Now you remember what that sounded like before. Let's play again. On my Bluebird dynamic mic through a soundboard USB into my MacBook Pro. Now beautifully it is now pretty much gone. So I'm going to apply that. And you'll notice that the sound print here has gone from what it was before. I'll just undo it. You can see how thick that is. That's the sound that was being created in the background. Now I'll put it back. And now it's almost gone. Now let's listen to the difference again. So I'm going to play this at the beginning here. Okay, so this is the video sample specifically for audio so that we can actually address any audio issues that... And now let's take out the sound and listen to it again. Okay, so this is the video sample specifically for audio. So there's a huge difference, and this tool is built into Audition. Now once I save, I do Command S, and then I can close it, Command W, and then if I go back to Premiere, you'll notice that the waveform has been expanded and I have the corrected audio in now. So if we listen to the room tone, there is no room tone. It's a dead sound now. So that's the first portion, is updating the audio that was in the camera audio. We also have this audio here, which is, this audio here that says Blue Bluebird mic, which is an excellent vocal dynamic mic, which I use for voiceovers. And we're going to drag that one in. Now this one, I'm just going to mute this track, and the way you mute is you hit the M on this audio track here. And I'll go back to the beginning. Actually, I'll go to about here. And we'll be using Adobe Audition. And you'll notice, so right now what I'm doing is I'm filming directly on... The video is not synced with the audio. Now, how do we sync it? Well, that's why we had those different sounds to actually do the syncing. And you think, what do I do? Move it back and forth? In the past, that's what you did. Now, with the wonders of technology, we just select by holding down the Shift key, clicking that audio track in conjunction with the video track, right-clicking, and choosing Synchronize. And what it's going to ask for is, how do you want to synchronize? You can synchronize by actually putting markers down and it lines up markers, but in this particular case, because we have sounds that are created in both, we can use the audio to actually line up, and it will look for those spikes and line them up. So let's click OK. And you see that it's actually moved it across. And now when I play, and I've still got that track muted, so I'm just listening to the separate audio. To my 5D Mark IV, great camera by the way. You see it's now synchronized. Okay. Now we can do the same thing here to make the sound better by going into Adobe Audition. And we won't have to remove room tone on this one because the actual sound, the mic was far enough away from the fan as well as pointing in my direction so that it didn't pick up any of the background noise. So we'll do the same thing. You'll notice the waveform is very small, and this is more typical of what you'd get in an audio recording. First we'll do the hard limiter, but obviously the hard limiter is going to be a bit different. So if we go into amplitude, go into the hard limiter, and then we're looking at this, and the hard limiter is probably about -12. So I'm going to type in -12 and click apply. And that brings those big peaks down. And now let's normalize. Now watch the difference here when we normalize. So when I normalize here, and this is much more typical, okay, at 100%, there we go, the expanded waveform. Now we do want to listen to that noise floor here, but barely anything, so we don't really care. Okay, so save that, Command S, Command W to close. Nope, didn't close that one. And then go back to Premiere, and there we go. Now let's listen to this audio so that we can actually address any audio issues that you may. Now here's an interesting thing. We have audio from the camera, and then we have audio separately. I want you to listen to the difference and understand why we collect audio separately. Even though I really am quite impressed with the camera mic, considering it is a camera mic, listen to the difference. Here is the camera audio. So this is the video sample specifically for audio so that we can actually address any audio issues that you may have with your... Now I'm going to switch to the other mic and do the same sequence. This is the video sample specifically for audio so that we can actually address any audio issues that you may have with your video. Now, if you listen to those carefully, one has sort of a tinnier, sort of hollow sound, while the Bluebird mic, which is a vocal mic, has a very rich sound, very deep bass, as well as a sound that has sort of a rich tonality. Just significantly better audio. Now this brings our tutorials to an end. We've done mark-ins, mark-outs. We've done change of duration of speed, so slow motion, and you can obviously speed it up as well. We've reversed a clip. We've added titling. We've added voiceovers. We've added background music and a sound effect. We've done scrolling titles as well. We've done a round trip through Photoshop and a freeze frame. We've also done enhancing audio from your camera by removing noise and normalizing the audio, as well as taking separate audio and syncing it. Hopefully with all these lessons combined, you feel confident to move forward using Premiere for all your video and film endeavors. Hope you've enjoyed the series.